This is the future. Evolution.
The Crossing Realms Conference launches September 19th and 20th and will dock in Richmond, Missouri. This is already being called the event of the year, folks. With an unprecedented list of speakers and special guests, 2 days of cryptids, UFOs, and paranormal presentations, along with a celebrity-filled ghost hunt, meet and greet, gallery reading, vendors, and a film screening. This promises to be both educational and fun. Go to Eventbrite.com to secure your tickets and vendor slots before they are all abducted. They're going fast.
Well, hello, one and all. Welcome to Brunch with Bigfoot, Mr. Rob. Of course, I'm your host, BMR. Joining me, as always, Tex from Texas Front Porch. If you're new here, please subscribe to Bigfoot, Mr. Rob on YouTube, Texas Front Porch, found on YouTube. The Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast, found on YouTube. Daniel Diva. Paranormal Paul, Donnie Cho Says Stuff, Monica Rollins, all found on YouTube. You can also find us on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Whatever your preference is for podcasts, you can find us there as well. So thanks to everybody for coming on in. We have a cool little show slated for you. Before we move on with that, of course, everybody, as you well know, thanks for buying my books out there. Bigfoot, Mr. Rob presents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1, Book 2, found on Amazon. Simply type Bigfoot Michigan Rob in your Amazon browser. I appreciate that. Leave a review for those of you that bought it, because that does help promote sales, much like when you like our shows. The algorithms mean a lot to us, and it helps push everything out, whether it's book sales, YouTube growth, etc., etc. Thank you. Also leaving a comment, and hit that little heart on your phone or your computer in the lower right-hand corner. You guys just, pop that thing, and that, for whatever the reason, YouTube likes when you guys do that, and it helps the shows as well. So I do appreciate that. And the super chats are open. Please, if you feel free, go ahead and help us support the show. You become a BMR pirate. Mateys, join today. That's right. You can join. Become a pirate. Join the many. Join the few. Depends really on your point of view. Thank you. All the business aside, we got a conference to talk about. And before I get into that, I'm going to bring up, Mr. Tex here. And one shake of a lamb stick. Hey, Tex. What's up, man?
Hey.
There he is. Mr. Tex, how's it going, my
man,
friend?
it is Thursday. Woo!
Thirsty Thursday. The weather's breaking. Get outside, enjoy the sun. Now, that's in Michigan. I do know that in Texas, you pretty much always have the sun.
We got some interesting stuff rolling in as far as weather goes this week, and we have a wind warning with a fire warning. So I will be going out in the field this weekend. So I got to run a cold camp at least Friday night, but they're calling for 50-mile-an-hour gust.
Oh.
So something I don't like to camp in, because you got to be careful where you camp, because you can't, you don't want to camp directly underneath any trees and all that kind of stuff, because that can be nasty. With a beat up truck or worse. So,
let me ask you this too, as far as, because we do get in Michigan anyways too, we get a lot of high winds in April and May. But I have to imagine, because I know Texas is a lot drier than Michigan. Like here in Michigan, the forest is damp still, and there's still frost in a lot of sections of the forest where, the sun can't break through, as readily as in the city. So if
Right.
you're out camping and you got that high 50-mile-an-hour winds, we all know about California. I don't hear much though about wildfires spreading too much in Texas. I could be totally wrong with that assessment, but that's another thing you probably have to worry about, right? Starting a fire, if you can even start one in 50-mile wind gusts.
Yeah, which is something you don't want to do. I mean, me, Jason, and Randy were camping down at Brown Springs one time, and we had a windstorm come through. It was a northern front that come through, and it came through so quick that the winds got so high it was blowing the coals out of our fire, and we weren't aware that they were going to get that high. And I mean, we were hustling to, you know, kill the fire. So yeah, and the thing about it is, once we get a lot of grass fires, a lot of what we call brush fires down here, because I mean, we don't have the big 100-foot, you know, pines and all that kind of stuff down here. But man, when it gets going through, you know, a field of hay or something like that, it's rough. It's rough. But I have fought my share of grass fires for sure. Hell, when I was in school, if you were a senior and they had a big grass fire, the volunteer fire department would pull up and make an announcement over the speakers, and all the senior guys would meet out front, and the fire department would pull over and pick you up, and you go help. And they gave you a burlap sack and a 5-gallon bucket of water, and you went out there and helped them fight the grass fires.
Wow.
So yeah, we get them, and they're pretty devastating when they take off.
I can imagine. So I haven't had that much problems here in the state of Michigan with those fires. We had the worst thing that we had, and Gemini Moon was in the chat. She might be able to remember this if it even affected her. She's well north of me. We had, I think it was last year when Canada had a lot of fires going on, and and I'm not too far from Canada. In fact, I
Right.
get to Canada in maybe 25, 30 minutes. The bridge isn't far away, neither is the tunnel. But I was thinking that these fires in Canada were off toward the northwest. But one morning last summer, for about 3 days in a row, I woke up in the morning and I looked outside. It was maybe, I don't know, 7, 8 in the morning. And we had unusual fog, like in my area, like in my subdivision, right? It was kind of thick. And I noticed the smell of burning, smoldering smoke. I'm
Right.
like, holy cow, what's going on? Is somebody's house on fire not too, locally here? And then I realized, and I went on the news, I started looking some things up, and that was actually the wind taking all that smog, all the fire, it blew it towards the state of Michigan.
Right.
So it didn't catch fire, but you could smell that, which I found to be, crazy,
Yeah, we'll get that from West Texas and also out from Mexico a lot of times.
Oh, yeah. Oh, from Mexico?
Yep.
Right at the border, because you're not too well. The border from you is what, maybe 200 miles away?
Yeah,
Close.
it's about an 8-hour drive.
8-hour drive.
Yeah.
Roger Blair lives in eastern Kentucky, and he says there's already a fire out in the hills where he lives.
Yeah, and that's the bad thing about hills and fire and stuff. A lot of people don't know, and I've said this before, but being a firefighter in Apache, you learn how fire behaves and stuff. But for every 20% grade that a hill is going up, the fire doubles in speed, and that's not considering the wind that's pushing it. So I mean, fires can, man, people do not realize how fast they can move. They really don't. That's why so many people get caught in brush fires and grass fires and wildfires in general, because they don't realize how fast they can move and how big they can get. They can get you. They can get you quick.
Yeah, it could get right up upon you, and before you know it,
Mhm.
boy, you're in some trouble. That's for
I've
sure.
seen a rainstorm. We responded to a grass fire one time. Had some storms moving in, and it was lightning that caused it. And this thing was blowing and going. We had about 40, 50-mile-an-hour winds backing this thing across, and it was just flat land, but it was going towards his house. And we pulled up, and no sooner than we pulled up, we were about to cut the fence and go through, but the bottom dropped out of the and it started raining, and that rain extinguished that entire fire in a matter of seconds. That's how much it was raining.
Oh wow!
I mean, it was one of the most amazing sights that I've ever seen.
Amazing and thankful at the same time, right? I mean that.
Well, hey, it put out the fire. I was good.
That's what I mean. Puts out that fire because you want that spreading and so on and so forth. You know, of course, everybody just coming on in. Thanks for coming in. Of course, we got that conference coming up September 19th and 20th. I know it's a ways out, Tex, but before you know it, it's going to be upon us. And briefly about that for everybody that's new here, we're going to have over like 20 speakers and special guests there, Tex. And I got word from Krista, and I started talking about this last month. And maybe I think you saw the text as well, Tex, that the hotel room that we're all staying at is pretty booked, man. I can't believe the turnout we're getting already for this thing.
Well, I know last month, I know Pops, and I want to say thanks for all the prayers for
Yes,
Pops and everything.
I wasn't bringing up
He's supposed to be going home today. He had his surgery yesterday, so he's doing a lot. He's doing better. Now it what was you talking about?
No, I was going to mention Pops, and you brought up. I was just talking to everybody out there. They know about our conference, and I can't believe that the hotel where we're all staying at it's already filled. It's
Yeah,
like
that's where I was going with it. He called.
Yeah.
He booked his room, and I think this was last month or the first this month, and they told him they had one room left at that point.
Yeah. Now, for those of you, don't fret because there's something else within less than 10 miles away. But when I heard that, I was like, man, this thing is like 7 months away, and I tell you what, I'm getting kind of giddy about it already. I don't want to wish the summer away. I do not. I love the summer, but right at the end of the summer, man, we'll be ready to roll. And Ghost Hunt was sold out. Now we're also offering a special tour now.
Yep.
I think it's going to be an unbelievable event, and the little your voiceover on the music, it's kind of coming to fruition already. Knock on wood, of course.
Well, and I said it's it's already being called the event of the year. Well, I didn't come up with that on my own. That's something that people have said.
Yeah.
Speakers have the speakers have said it, and other people that didn't, that honestly, folks, I don't think you understand. We had people after this thing got rolling, it snowballed on us. It's just going to be a little conference. Just it was our first, our first one as a group.
Yeah.
And it just exploded. And we've got people asking to speak there.
Still.
And we're having to tell them no, because
we are turning away people. And there's not just your average Tom, Dick, and Harry. They're pretty well known people.
These are, big names in the community. And
yeah.
that's the whole reason, really, we started the special guest thing, because we didn't have any room for speakers. It was like, well, you could be a special guest,
Yeah, we've
and
got
we've even had to cut that off.
yeah, we had to cut it off. Now you can still get a vendor table.
Oh yeah,
For those of
absolutely.
you, if anybody in the chat room or listening later or listening on replay, come on down, sell your wares. It doesn't have to be UFO, paranormal, or Bigfoot
Mhm.
related. If you're into Betty Crocker, if you make clothing, anybody that has a small business,
Yeah.
paintings, anything, whatever you're into, uh, I would suggest you get a vendor table because you'll guarantee you it's a 2-day event. You'll be able to sell all your product and get your name out there in your business, whatever your business happens to be.
Well,
And I'm looking forward to that as well.
well, see, and that's a big thing too, because if you're getting your channel started, or if you're if you're a researcher or whatever, and like I said, it doesn't have to be paranormal, UFO, or Bigfoot related.
Right.
If you're getting your channel started, folks, this is a great way to network, because there's going to be so many TV personalities there. There's going to be, people in the community that are big names, that are special guests. You know, networking is going to be huge at this thing. You know, there's only two conferences that I've seen that are as big a networking opportunity as this one. One was Josh's Dogman Conference,
Right.
and two is the Lone Star Paracon, because I think as far as size goes, ours is comparable to most now, and that's crazy to even think about. And but the people that are going to be there for networking purposes are off the charts. They really, really are.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for everybody, really. And then again, networking, starting a channel if you're an author, and even whatever you have business wise,
Yep.
sell your wares, sell your products, promote your stuff. Are you authors, whatever you are, it doesn't matter. I think it's gonna be great. It's a 2-day event. We've got speakers on Friday, Saturday. We're doing our
Mm-hmm.
meet and greet, I think, on Friday. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's activities for everybody. Bring your kids, bring your wife, bring the girlfriend, bring grandma, bring grandpa. There's gonna be something for everybody. It's gonna be very entertaining, and
Hell, bring your wife and your girlfriend.
bring them both if you got them.
Yeah. Bring one of them Friday, one of them Saturday.
However that works out for some of you people out there.
But
So,
yeah, it's gonna be crazy. I mean, I'm really looking forward to this. It's gonna be my first time. Um, well, it's not gonna be my first time in Missouri, but it's gonna be my first time spending any time in Missouri, and and for so many of us, even on the team, it's gonna be the first time that we've met face to face. It's gonna be the first time that the entire team has been in one place.
yeah, that will be the first time. All of us will all be there.
Yep.
And most of us are coming down Thursday, some on Wednesday. So we're going to be there for like
Yep.
the whole, or for 4 days at least, 3 to 4 days, and so on. So yeah, looking
Uh,
forward to that, you guys. The flyers are out there. Yeah, it's
SoCal
not
Squatchers,
like
SoCal, SoCal Squatchers asking if any Sasquatch hunts. You know, that's Momo territory. We're in the middle of Momo territory, and I got to tell you, if you think I am not going to try to carve out some time
yeah,
and go tromping around the woods, you're nuts. So if you want to go tromping around the woods with me and go and see if we can find some Momo, and also Dogman are in the neighborhood. So yeah, I'm planning on it for sure.
oh, absolutely. We'll be there and we're ready to roll. Whatever. Again, I can't plan nothing. It's just going to be We're going to take it day by day, and it's going to be a great time. So, yeah, get your tickets. Eventbrite.com is posted in this show. It's posted on all of our channels. Click on it and check it out because it should be a lot of fun, you guys. A lot of fun. And, of course, I tell you what, we're one of the cheapest ones out there, and we'll be done with this conference talk here really quick. It's relatively inexpensive, you guys. Some people charge $50, $100. We're starting our tickets as $30. $35.
Well, and the vendors tables are cheap too. I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they're going to a conference as a vendor, and their tables are $200 a piece.
Oh my Lord! For a vendor table?
For a vendor spot, yeah. So yeah, check it out, man.
Yeah, check it out. So anyway, thanks. I see Krista's. Yeah, Krista's in the chat. Blah blah blah. Hi,
Krista.
Yeah. I was trying to put together a show. We don't have a guest today. Brent is vacationing, and which is fine. This show goes back and forth. Sometimes we have guests. Sometimes we have Brent. So I was trying to think of something, to talk about a little bit for everybody, and I just happened upon something, Tex, and I got some notes on this. So we all know about Patterson Gimlin film, right? The legendary film. And, I just started looking, and let me ask you, I'm gonna throw this out to you, Tex. I have the numbers here, just some of the numbers. There's a ton of numbers. How many Sasquatch or Bigfoot reports? And I know, and you don't have to be exact, you think have been reported prior to Patterson Gimlin. And I'm just talking about Bluff Creek area within a 10-mile radius, because I have the numbers from a 10-mile radius pre-1967 when the film was made public.
I'm gonna guess. Wow. News didn't travel as fast. I'll go 100.
There's 297, and I stopped counting. And I wrote down a couple here. And I've only started in 1958. And I got this off this website, California Bigfoot Encounters, something like that, Bluff Creek. 1958, there was 10 reports. 1959, 2. 1960, 37. 1961, I didn't see one. 1962, 36. 1963, 40. 1964, 7. 1967, the year of the Patterson Gimlin film, 12. And then past that in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, accumulating for another 200, Tex. And this is all within 10 miles of Bluff Creek. It kind of blew me away.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, you've got all these skeptics saying, "Oh, how come people just started seeing it?" After that fake film came out. Well, one, that film is not fake,
right?
And two, that's what if you don't know what you're talking about, don't try to argue, because it's these things were being seen not just in the few years before, like you're talking about.
Yeah.
We're talking hundreds, maybe thousands of years before these things were being seen. There's cave drawings of them. There's reports of them, And one thing that bothers me, it just really chaps my butt, is the fact that so many of the historians, the scientists, and all that kind of stuff, they dismissed the oral history before there was written stuff. Oh, they're just stories. No, that is how history was passed down. You know, that's how history is passed down now. It's just somebody tells a story and writes it down.
Yep.
So they can't. They can't say that you know, history's not just chock full of these things, of these reports, because it is.
History is important, and these reports are important because we always talk about data, however you want to verbalize it.
Right.
Very important. And I just thought it, and I knew, now I was aware that there had been sightings of Bigfoot in the 1800s, 1900s, pre the years I'm talking about. They're out there.
Right.
But I just thought it was fascinating about people were well aware, like in the 50s and 60s, prior to 67, that reported this into a variety of, back in the day, obviously not a website, but it was out there written. Somebody took the story, whether it ended up in a book or in a newspaper. In fact, I found a newspaper article, several on that website, that had man sees hairy man walking through forest, 1959. In fact, I got a couple I'm going to read off to everybody. Not to bore them, I'm not going to read these. There's a couple interesting stories pre 67. And it was kind of popular. If you remember, I wrote the guy's name down. Do you remember, though, there's this guy named William Walker, who was an excavator in Bluff Creek, who was the first guy that really coined the term Bigfoot when he took that print,
Yeah.
that casting. That might not be his right name, but one guy faked it and one guy had an allegedly. There was two guys associated. William Walker was one. I forgot the other guy's name, but one of them was a fake, and it's made it's newsworthy because the guy made a wood shoe and
Right.
made a print, and then this other guy, while excavating out, found an alleged foot of a big human being, as he says. It's a big human with a foot. He took a cast, and really that's where the term Bigfoot came from.
Right.
Because the American natives prior to this knew of Bigfoot prior to the white man. And of course, that was Sasquatch. And really, us as Americans, we kind of Americanized it and called it Bigfoot due to this man excavating out at Bluff Creek when he took that cast.
Yeah, it's really an amazing story when you get to talking about it. I mean, it's what are you doing over there, dog? Hey, quit licking the carpet. But yeah, it's, and there are so many encounters that they're just, one thing that we haven't heard about, that one of the most famous encounters, you know, that old boy got kidnapped and taken to their cave, and then
Harry Osterman.
Yeah. And you don't hear about that anymore. You don't hear about that stuff happening.
That's a great.
Now, I'm sure it does, and some of them do not make it back to tell the tale.
No, that's a great point, because you're right. Because I'm not going to get into it today. I've read a bunch of them that Harry Osterman, the perfect one, got kidnapped allegedly and was drugged from his campsite. It was taken out of his tent, drug up a mountainside, but not drug all the way. He was then, as he recalls, being put out over the shoulders of this massive whatever it was, right? And it was dark time, and went up to the mountains, and they put him in that cave, right, Tex?
Yeah.
And he was being watched by a family of Bigfoot. It was a male, a female, and they had two juveniles. And he was in there, still in his tattered sleepwear, his sleeping blanket, or or whatever it was,
sleeping bag. Yeah.
sleeping bag. And he was there, I guess, for several days, right?
Yep.
And then I think, and they were talking, they were jabbering, this entire family, and he was scared. I'm sure he was scared out of his mind, but I guess he tried not to show fear. And then he was trying to plan. After a couple of days, he's thinking, "How am I going to get out of here?" So he noticed a pattern that was going on. How one of them, the juveniles would run off and play, and maybe the adult you went out to hunt the male, maybe the female was behind. But one night, and he says, "Well, when they're all gone, it's my escape." And then he produced all these canned goods. He had some canned goods, but they were really interested in the tobacco,
Yeah, and the snuff. Yeah,
the snuff, and he offered it to the Sasquatch. He says, "Well, if they can snuff this or smell this, he's assuming they get sick, then he can make plans to escape." Now the story is more involved than that, but allegedly that's what had happened. He had
yeah,
offered the tobacco to one of the Bigfoot that was there, and sure enough, it ran out, got sick, so he's left alone in the cave. Then he skedaddled out of there.
yeah. And the thing about it is, if they really wanted him back, they'd have got him because there's no way he was going to outrun them.
Probably, yeah. That's the thing. I'm kind of surprised when I heard the story that he was drug out through the woods for a little bit before the Bigfoot put him on his shoulders. Knock on wood, the man did not sustain any broken bones.
Yeah,
Because it's the only part of the story I found a little odd that he was drugged and carried up a mountain to the meadow inside the mountain ridge, I guess it was.
inside the cave. Yeah,
Yes, so I I had pulled up some of this information really quickly. I'm just gonna go through a little bit about it here. Um, well, here's one of the first. This is a pre-Patty story. And now this isn't mine. I didn't get this from anybody like I normally do, but this was sent in, and this was pre 1967 about an alleged Bigfoot encounter. I'm gonna read this right quick, and we can kind of chew the fat on it, as you like to say all the time. This and I got this off this California Bigfoot encounter sightings. Looks like it was. I don't know if that's exact. Okay. And this person sends this email into this website. It says it was late August 1965. My wife and I went on what we thought would be our dream vacation. They flew outside. They flew into California, Northern California, Bluff Creek, and rented a car to the airport. And they were to arrive at their destination in a couple days. They drove down the highway and came across the Bluff Creek area. So prior to this, they came down from Crescent City, California. It says blah blah blah. I don't know where that is in relation. So they go on to say that they got up next early. He's a truck driver by trade back in the day, and wanted to get started early on their journey. So they're absolutely 1 minute into their travel outside of Bluff Creek when his wife had fallen asleep, but told the husband to wake her if he saw anything beautiful along their travels throughout this part of California. And he goes on to say it wasn't too long that after she fell asleep that he spotted a part of a black patch of sand off of the road line, and he pulled over. It says here he puts the car in park, and he shuts off the car. He starts firing pictures. He went to wake up his wife Mary to show him the scenery and where he found what he had found in this area, and he wanted to say, "Would you like to go out and walk around the area?" And just
right.
before he goes to wake her up, he heard something moving from around his car. And he looks through his rear view mirrors, it says here, and he says what he's seen was something that he could see a set of, it seemed to be bipedal legs, and it almost appeared to be knees in his rear view mirror. So whatever this was like 5 feet above the car. He's looking at kneecaps, I guess. And then this creature, yeah, can you imagine that, Tex? Hair covered. It's in black fur or black hair, he says. Then he says he thought at first that maybe it was a bear standing, but it was very unusual to him. So this creature, whatever it was, walks around to the front of the car, gets in front of his car. Now he cannot still see this. And he says, now I can only see looking out of the car genitalia through my front window. And then he says, what in the world? This is not a bear. And then whatever this creature was, it bent down, looked directly into his car. And he says, Rob, it doesn't say Rob. He says it goes back and it spits. It just spits some phlegm that covered like 8 inches of his windshield. Looks at the guy, turned around and ran back into the tree line. And this story goes on. I'm gonna stop with the story there. It's too long. It's on this website. And can you imagine? This is in 1965 in the Bluff Creek area. Isn't that that's I tell you what, I think that I gotta get out of this somehow. Yeah, okay, there we go. Yeah, but anyway, Tex. Yeah, what were you gonna say? I'm sorry. That to me is kind of a cool sighting.
That's a big Sasquatch.
You know, kneecaps, genitalia in the front of the car. I mean, how tall was that?
I get the genitalia, but my gosh, I mean, to see the kneecaps out the
Tex, man. I mean, I'm putting that together. That's got to be 10 plus feet tall.
Oh, absolutely, at least.
Yeah, at least. And let's be honest here. You know, we know they get tall. Most of the average reports, though, I think, are maybe 6 to 8 feet, right?
Oh yeah. I think it's very rare. I think it's very rare that one that is 10 feet tall. Now, and I've said this before. I think a lot of these 10-foot, these 10-foot critters that they talk about are not 10 foot. Okay, they're just not. I think they're more along the 8-foot range, 7.5-foot range, because I don't think people realize just how something 10 foot tall would be. You're talking about something that you look into a second story window.
That would be for people that follow sports or basketball. The hoop rim is 10 feet from the ground up.
Yeah.
And it's hard for people to picture that if you're not into basketball, but 10 feet is what? How many stories is a building? How many feet is one story? 10 feet?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at something that could, like I said, look into a second story window.
Yeah, that's more along the lines of a giant. I mean,
it certainly seems that way to me. I mean, but I get it. I think they can get that big, but I think it's rare.
I think they can, and people suggest that they're that big in Alaska, perhaps, or maybe the mountains of Montana. Where it's very desolate. But I don't know. And even what are you talking about? Is it even a Sasquatch at that size?
Yeah. I mean, Duke talks a lot about the mountain giants,
right?
Being, 15 feet and bigger. I don't know. I'm fully prepared, I think, to see something close up that's 8 foot. Something 10 foot plus. I might have to clean my drawers on that one.
10 foot plus, and just really quickly, just to give everybody an idea of all these pre-Patterson Gimlin film, sightings in California, and I mentioned a whole bunch of them. There's Humboldt County, California. Mark Homestead sees a head and shoulders of a Bigfoot outside her bedroom window on the second story floor.
Yeah.
This is in August of 1962. 1963, Todd Wilhelm reports a road crossing of two Bigfoot creatures at the eastern slope of Bluff Creek. Walks past the road. Mammoth Mountain, California. Bikers report a dawn Bigfoot sighting at the base of a ski resort. I don't know if there's a ski resort out here. This is Mammoth Mountain. I'm sure it is. Tobacco farmers, Humboldt County, report Bigfoot running through and ripping their crops out. I mean, Tex, I'm not going to read these. I'm looking on this website here, Bluff Creek, Blue Mountain Ridge, 1967, 1967, 1967, 1967. Dewey Hopper finds tracks around a road grade, 8 a.m. in the morning. Tells his friend Larry that these are oversized human prints. What is this? Summer of 67, same area. Jim McLaren begins carving a now famous Willow Creek Bigfoot statue from something that he had seen at Willow Creek.
Yeah, he carved it out of a single piece of redwood, I believe.
Yeah, I heard that before. This man, D. Hope, mentions a disturbance around their equipment stamping area. Vandals or Bigfoot. And this is the same crew of that man that took that casting of the print. So it goes, and I'm not going to bore people with this, but I'm pulling up through this, and there's reams of reports. And what I found fascinating, these are all pre-1967.
Yep.
So I guess my question would be, and I guess maybe these people made these reports public after the Patterson Gimlin film. So I've listed 297 reports pre-Gimlin. And that shows you that all these people kept this to themselves until the infamous film was made public, right?
Right.
And that just tells me how many other people to this day are not reporting anything.
Absolutely. Because nobody wants to say they saw, 8, 7, 8, 9, 10 foot 8 man, because the stigma is not as bad as it was, but it's still pretty bad, because the first thing people want to say, oh, you're pulling my leg, or you're lying, or you're crazy,
And that's how it is for all of us. I mean, I don't like to be redundant. I mean, we always talk about these things. Hell, I didn't want to report mine. I probably wouldn't have. Really?
Yeah.
I mean, until I was kind of talked into it a little bit by other people. I mean, I didn't tell my employee at work what I saw. I said, I'm not coming back to work. 6 months later, I come back to work. And especially a lot of these folks that have these prominent jobs, I mean, what if you're an actual newspaper reporter? What if you have a prominent role on network television and you actually see a Bigfoot? Are you going to report that on the news? People are going to look at, because let's face it, 95% of the people in America don't believe. They believe in the beef jerky commercial. That's about it.
Yeah. That or Harry and Henderson.
Yeah. I never seen the Harry and Hendersons.
It's a fun movie.
Okay. I never watched it. Is it pretty cool? Worth time to watch? I never seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, you need to watch it.
Okay. I'll check it out. And that's the movie, right? Or wasn't there also a TV show that featured Bigfoot?
I think there was a Harry and the Hendersons TV show.
Okay.
But it didn't take off.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I just, and again, I knew about Bigfoot prior to my youth. I did see Gimlin and I saw the Leonard Nimoy, like I always talk about, and Jack Links brought it to, I mean, that's really Jack Links, you know. And I was
Yeah.
reacquainted with Jack Links because they do have hilarious commercials, I must admit. But
Yeah. Messing with Sasquatch.
you know, but that's the thing, you know. People have seen. I mean, 290 reports pre Gimlin. It kind of blows my mind. Now I get it, Tex, as you mentioned earlier. They've been around since the beginning of time, 1800s, 1900s, and it was all kept wrapped. And a lot of this, too, I believe, was spurred on by First Nations, right? I think they're
Oh,
the ones
absolutely.
that they knew about these things well before the quote unquote white man, you know, started invading or taking over, you know, the lands, right? So, and they and I can see I can see where they would keep that all under wraps. The average American today will keep it under wraps.
What I don't understand is I've heard people say this, well, how come nobody that you ever really heard of, that they would call a credible witness or anything, Well, okay. Daniel Boone, Davy Crockett,
Ted Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt, I mean, that's just three right there.
And there's certainly credible people, credible individuals. I mean, you know, and for a person of like Teddy Roosevelt to come forth and make a claim, there's a man that is putting his reputation on the line.
Absolutely, absolutely. Of course. Now, that story is supposedly the way he told it was the tracker that he used gave him that story, But a lot of people in these circles believe that it was actually Teddy Roosevelt and it was Bonham, his tracker, that was killed. He was just saying that to, get away from, the stigma of him seeing this and not damage his reputation. Yeah, bombing.
Bombing incident.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what the true story is there, but
it brings up a point because today, when you hear about these vicious attacks, today we mostly hear about the LBL and Dogman. But do you know that back in the day, there was a lot more attacks with Bigfoot than there are today, it seems. At least today, they're not brought to the forefront. But if you talk about, the alleged Ape Canyon incident, where these men were fearing for their lives, right? Where these hairy ape-like creatures were hurling rocks, reached into the cabin, almost grabbed somebody out of the cabin, and they all feared for their lives, and they were attacked all night long until the morning, until they finally, cleared out. The bombing incident, of course. There's several other ones involving people losing their lives associated with Bigfoot. That's back then. Today, you don't really hear that as much. Is it because people, Tex, are keeping it under wraps? Or do you think that?
I think it's part of the reason we have the whole, missing phenomenon that, is big now that everybody talks about. And I think it certainly plays a part in some of these missing people in these national forests. But I don't think it plays all of it. Humboldt County is very famous for, these type of encounters, these aggressive encounters or fatal attacks or, people going missing. In fact, I believe he's in chat.
Brown dwarf,
Bigfoot
dwarf.
Bigfoot dwarf. I think it happens all over the country. I think it happens all over the world. But we're not hearing about it. One, because they don't want the truth out there right now. As far as, they, right?
They, you of course.
Yeah. Big word, they. Um, but I think it's odd, and I'm kind of going off topic here, but I think it's odd that as scary as the dogman phenomenon is, there's a lot less reported fatalities from dogman, so alleged dogman, than there is Bigfoot.
Well, there is. Yeah, I agree. And I mentioned a whole bunch from way back when, right?
Right.
And people in chat have been mentioning a few as well. You know what? I tell you what, this again, I know many people since I've been doing this that they subscribe to the theory of Bigfoot being the friendly forest giant.
Right.
I get it. And I
Yeah.
tell you what, a lot of the people we speak to have had nothing but good encounters. But do you think that is kind of covered up from these people that and you make a great point because there have been a lot more people involving being unalive associated with Bigfoot than the dogman. I mean, really with the dogman, I've heard of what LVL for the most part. And I tell you what, I've done a lot of stories. There's many in the books. I've done some live shows on dogman. It's never been people getting offed. It's always been about sheer terror. And
Yeah.
that sheer, I know I can get you, I can eat you right now. And they don't,
Right.
you know? And do you think, though, with these people that are in love with the romance of Bigfoot being this helper in the woods, do you think that a lot of people that come across maybe some things that are underhanded are not being reported because of their devotion to Bigfoot? I think people think that way, Tex. I know it might sound odd for me to say how you can be devoted or worship, you know, some of these crazy beasts, but people think oddly. And I think perhaps a lot of people just keep this under wraps and don't
Well,
report these things.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I think that's a very small percentage, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. But because I mean, let's face it, for some people out there, this phenomenon, and I'm going to use that term because we don't know exactly what they are.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it. I think it's become almost a religion to some people.
Yep.
And much like, unfortunately, much like these activists, I think there are Bigfoot activists out there that, like you said, no matter what happens,
Mm-hmm.
that they want to protect the friendly reputation of Sasquatch, which it doesn't always happen.
Yeah, and I'm not in the business of making fun of other people and stuff, but I just can't get that sometimes because I've just seen comments on social media. I'm not even talking about our channels. We don't get that with
Right.
us amongst us or amongst our chat room or amongst people that watch the shows. But being on social media, there are people that are like livid when you even suggest that you shouldn't trust Bigfoot.
Oh, absolutely,
Like,
absolutely.
text. I mean, I've seen comments where people get downright awful towards other people, saying
Yeah.
that they trust Bigfoot over a human being. Now, granted, there's many dangerous human beings in the world, more than Bigfoot, but there's more
No,
humans
yeah,
than Bigfoot, though. Let's face it. There's billions of people in the world, and maybe what 100,000 Bigfoot. I don't know. I don't even know what that number would be.
Well, and I think the number of flat out malicious Bigfoot dwarf the number of malicious humans. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But they wouldn't be the only critter out there that plays with its food, for entertainment. Killer whales will play with their prey. Cats toy with their prey. So why wouldn't they, if it's fun to chase us around, why wouldn't they do it? Especially if they get their jollies out of it, I mean.
I don't know, man. It's a good point. I mean, it is. Think about it, I've seen my cat when I had cats, and they were declawed. The wife wanted them all declawed, right? I saw a cat, one of the cats, it was Siamese cats, and I had a mouse problem at one time, and
right,
and I see my cat playing with something like in somewhere right in the middle of the living room, and I thought it was one of his furry toys, and he's like pawing this thing. He found one of the mice, and he literally pawed it to death.
Yeah. Bat it around till they kill it. Yeah.
And he was having fun. I tell you what, though, I don't think he had any inclination of killing it. I think he thought he was playing with it.
Well, and I think that's probably something too. There may be something to that also with Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Maybe they're playing with us no rougher than they would their own kind.
Yes.
But we can't, we're not that robust.
We've heard the stories about people in their tent. And let's face it, it's a small tent. We all know the type of tents. The majority of people out, especially if you're going just looking or researching or whatever, you're not getting the big old army tent. You got you might have a sizable tent to fit 2 to 4 people, or in a lot of cases just for 2 people. So they can very easily be collapsed. And we hear oftentimes, I thought this Bigfoot took this big arm and crashed down on my tent that I was sleeping in, or pulled at his legs. Can you imagine if you're laying and that big old hand of a Bigfoot came smashing down and it crashes to your tent, and if it hits you in the head, I think that your odds of survival or being very severely messed up is very high, because I can't imagine the pressure exuded. I mean, if everybody believes in Bigfoot pushing down trees or snapping 3-inch round saplings, right, and twisting them, that's extreme pressure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like we did the math on it one time, and you're talking about something that can lift 10,000 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the sheer force that would, possibly get used. I mean, we can't handle that, Maybe they don't know their own strength. And like I said, they think they're playing with something that they don't know any better, and accidentally kill us. I think that would happen. Arguably the the one that they caught in Russia and used for a sex toy, they basically, I mean, breeding purposes, however you want to look at it. She killed, I think, 4 of her children before they started taking them away. She either accidentally drowned them, or, thinking that because that's the way they treated their babies and they're robust enough to handle it, but half humans can't. So, or that, you know, maybe she couldn't deal with the trauma of being, you know, used in that manner, and he was purposely killing the offspring that came from that.
Absolutely. I would change gears just a little bit. Talk similarly about the dog man, but I gotta help my mom with something really quick. Text me, take 2 seconds.
Okay,
She got home from the grocery store here. She went out, so I'll be right back in a second.
do it. I
You
got
can.
this.
I know you do.
So, what do y'all think? Do y'all think that she accidentally killed him, or do you think it was on purpose? Because you got to think about being thrown in a pit and taken, and I mean they broke her spirit, you know. You think it was an accident, Patty? I tend to agree, but I think the possibility is there that, you know, it was possibly a purposeful act. Um, but the whole thing with being, say you get abducted by a Bigfoot, and like I said, we're not as robust as they are. It's going to, and if they don't realize their own strength when it comes to us, they're used to dealing with their children or their, you know, juveniles. Because I mean, you think about it, we're not the size of what a toddler would be. We're the size of like an adolescent Bigfoot, and you know, a love tap per se from something that's 10 feet tall can lift 10,000 pounds would be enough to severely injure or kill us. We got reports of people actually getting slapped and clotheslined by these things, and it causes serious injury. There's a report out of Oklahoma that a man's wife, I think it was his wife or him, they were running from him and they got slapped in the back. Well,
Are you frozen, Tex?
no, I'm not. Sorry.
Oh, you're all right. No, my mom always does that. Goes out when I'm doing a show. She's got 8 bags. I put them all on my arms. I just carry them upstairs into the.
No, my sister-in-law just shared. She's got severe. If y'all don't know, my sister-in-law has been in really bad shape. She can't walk, and they finally figured out what's going on. She's got severe spinal damage, and she just sent. So sorry, I was looking at that.
No, I'm sorry to hear that, man. You know, I mean, we all got. Yeah. Would she just fire you a text just now, or just...
Yeah, I sent a copy of the picture of the X-rays and stuff. Is crazy.
Welcome, but, Pops. Yeah, I know. It's kind of. Hi, Pops. Good to see you, buddy.
But you know, I was talking more about this. What would happen if you know, because we're about to size, like I said, we're not, like I was telling the audience, we're not the size of like toddlers to them. We're like adolescents.
Yeah.
So if they love tap us, even, you know, or say they capture you and you're going someplace they don't want you to go, and they just kind of push you aside or toss you back into the cave. It could be good. It could be enough to kill you without them meaning to.
Oh, absolutely. With no ill will.
Mm-hmm.
They probably have an idea that we're fragile, but again, they don't know. They know their strength, but again, what we don't know their thought patterns, what they think of us. I'm sure they know that they can easily squash us.
Well, I mean, think about it. Encountering us is much like us encountering them because we look so close to them. We're just hairless, you know?
Yeah. And
So
many,
it would be, it'd be just, I think it might be just as shocking I mean, I think they watch us more than we watch them. Just the fact that they can hide from us and I mean, the one I saw through binoculars it had obviously had a perch, for lack of a better term, that they watched that campsite regularly. I mean, the path was wore down around the tree and off towards the side, you know, about 20 or so yards into the trees. They could just stand by this tree and watch this campsite at leisure without being seen. So these active areas, especially, I think they do set up these posts and stuff to monitor us, to see what we're up to for entertainment. Yeah, Pat, you're probably right. They probably laugh at the little hairless apes. But I think we may be little hairless apes to them. But think about us using technology, bobbing around with all these headlamps and the magical fire and the if you're listening to a radio, the music comes out of it. I mean, think about it. If try to put yourself in their position. If you had never seen this stuff before, and it's not, take these tribes that's never been contacted. When they start seeing the technology, they're just awed by it. Mm-hmm. Photographs. I mean, how many times have we heard, these tribes don't want their picture taken because they're afraid to, steal their soul or something.
It's kind of a cool point because I was thinking about that. I was just thinking about that when I stepped away for a moment about what do they think about us. We have our thoughts about them. That's kind of a good point because, for people that are out there actively looking for Bigfoot, we bring out all this equipment. We got these headlamps, we got our flashlights, we've got all this technology. And I often wonder because I think that the Sasquatch think that the First Nations might be magical. And do you think that when they see us, 'cause I think you're correct. I think that they observe us probably more than we observe them because we don't know when they're observing us.
Right.
We're out in the forest, and even if you're just a camper that you're not even looking for Bigfoot, and I think they observe, and I think that maybe they think that maybe human beings are some sort of spirit or we possess magic. Now, don't get me wrong, they've been around well before we have, and I think that they know about the things that we provide when we're out in the forest, which is different that they have no access to, obviously.
Right.
So I think they really are inquisitive about just our technology that we bring out into the forest. Much like we research Bigfoot, put the shoe on the other foot. I'm beginning to think more and more about this, that I think Sasquatch probably researches us if more than we research them.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, they're able to. I don't because they. I don't think they have that stigma. Oh, they're if we exist or not, because they can creep around and observe us, and I mean, because we're. I mean, let's face it, folks. As a whole, I'm not saying all of us, but as a whole, we're so oblivious as to what goes on around us in everyday life, much less when we get out in the woods. And, if you're not, say, if you're somebody or you're a family that goes camping once a year on a family vacation or something, you're not a woodsman. you know, you're not used to the sounds. You're not used to the sights. You don't know what you're looking for, what you're listening for. You know, watching us, bumble and stumble around, and how entertaining would that be? I mean, we entertain ourselves watching stuff, watching people screw up all the time. You know?
You know, all we always get a big kick out of this. We also get a big kick out of the bloopers. Yeah. People screwing up on a live TV show, like the news anchors or this and that. I mean, us as human beings always look to be entertained, and certainly Sasquatch is looking to be entertained, because I
Yeah.
bet, like you said, the things we do probably makes them laugh their ass off. And
Uh,
I think that they laugh at how feeble we are compared to them.
oh, it wouldn't surprise me in the least. Not one bit.
I'm going to ask you this, Tex. When it comes to the dog man and stuff like that, we hear all these accounts about the dog man, this and that, comes
Right.
up, wants to scare you. They see him, it growls, it gives you this feeling that you're in trouble. And outside of the LBL and maybe a couple other encounters that have taken place over the last several decades, people make them out to be evil. And I'm starting to change my tune a little bit. Now, I think, of course, on a different level, when you're talking about an entity or something that's not flesh and blood, I think that's different. But I think that when people come across the dog man and people make him out to be, oh my God, I never want to see one that's going to eat me. I just think that they portray that in a way. And don't get me wrong, I think that they're dangerous. Hell, Bigfoot's dangerous if you come across one that's
Absolutely.
got a hair up his ass, right?
Well, hell, a raccoon's dangerous.
Anything that's in the wild is dangerous. A deer, more people suffer deaths from deer
Yeah.
simply from hitting them in the road and they start flailing away. You know what I mean? Or a moose. The number one predator against humans is the moose. I think the moose have killed more human beings than anything in the any predator out there, wolves, bears, and everything.
Well, you talk about deer. This has happened a couple of times, but one incident, or two incidents. I'll talk about two of them.
Yeah.
One, the guy got what he was asking for. Okay, he covered himself with deer urine. Had his wife film the whole thing about him approaching the buck.
Mhm.
Okay, well the buck jacked him up, right?
Yeah.
Um, one guy, and this was here in Texas. He was just walking down the side of the highway collecting cans, and a buck came out of the brush and killed him. This is a white-tailed deer. They're not big down here, folks. And when I say they're not big, I mean a big deer down here is 225 pounds,
Which is big, but
which I mean that's big. Don't get me wrong, but I mean it's not 9 feet tall and 800 pounds.
right.
You know,
Well, it's just the strength and the buckling. I mean, they got the legs, they got the antlers. If you come
yeah,
across the buck, I mean, that easily we can gut you in 2 seconds. without even trying, you know?
So, my point is, I mean, even what we consider,
Thanks,
you
Diane.
know, even what we consider a cute animal that people are going, look at people. I mean, here we go again, talking about people getting out taking freaking selfies with bison. We have no freaking clue. We have no respect for animals. We just don't.
No. No, we don't. I do for one. I know you do for Tex. I know a lot of our listening audiences, but I got to tell you something. I'll admit to this. I was scared. I mean, I was okay. I wasn't terrified or oh my god, I'm gonna run and hide or anything. But I've got to tell you, I had a woodchuck 2 summers ago under my deck. Okay, and I was getting really ticked off because it was in this towards when I was out planting my garden, and I gotta tell you, man, I was getting so irritated because this woodchuck, some people call it a in Michigan they call him the woodchuck, but most people know it as a groundhog. Okay, same animal. I was just told this like 2 years ago. I didn't even realize this. They're the same. But it kept tearing up my garden and the lawn. I'm like, oh no. And it's planted itself underneath my deck and it started making tunnels. And I'm like, geez, oh, Pete's, I'm going to have a big problem. Fortunately, it was only one. So I started kind of collecting the data. When does he come out from underneath? Because I wanted to be out to see this thing and trying to scare it away. And I must tell you, this thing came out. I was waiting, and this thing came out from under the deck because I could hear him underneath the deck walking
Right.
around. And I was waiting for this thing to come out so I can get a sight on this thing. And it came out, and it was big and burly. I don't know how big it was. It was considerable size, right? And then I went at it to scare it away in hopes that it would never come back. Why I was thinking of this, I don't know. Just maybe it just wants to be away from a human being. But this thing stopped and looked at me and showed me his teeth, his little Bucky type teeth. I gotta tell you, man, for an instant, I'm like, I can't mess with this thing because it could probably do some damage to me.
Yeah.
Something that was maybe 2 feet long by maybe 8 inches wide and just thick, showed me the teeth, and it made this creepy little sound. It scared the hell out of me. Can you imagine? And that's a woodchuck.
Well,
Can you imagine coming across something that's not supposed to exist, staring
yeah,
you
I
down?
can.
Huh? Yeah. Oh, I know you. I mean, I can't do it. For the general public, you and I, fortunately, have seen them.
Yeah.
And if I
Well,
saw one again, I still would be in awe.
well, and it's like Masochist Mouse, and I love that name, by the way.
Yeah.
Says rabbits, can tear you up and give you a nasty bite. Well, not only that, I don't know if you've ever seen a rabbit break out its claws, but good God, they're vicious little things when they get panicked and when they get scared and they're trying to fight for their life. They're vicious.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
People
Same.
do not respect animals and the damage that they can do. Me and a buddy of mine were out walking the creeks one time, and I mean, you always carried a gun with you,
Yeah.
but we had his little 20 gauge and didn't have nothing but bird shot in it, unfortunately. But we're walking the creeks. We rounded this corner, and the way this was set up is when you rounded this corner, and there was a little waterfall, and it was straight up bluffs. It was boxed in, we ran in that corner. There's a bobcat drinking out of the pool there that forms. Well, he didn't have nowhere to go. And that's another thing. You corner these animals where they don't think they have a way out. That's bad news because they're going to come through you to get out. And we ended up having to kill this bobcat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, unfortunately, with the rounds we had and the gun we had, it took several shots to kill it. But yeah, that thing, I mean, till it drew its last breath, it was trying to get at us, and there's nothing more dangerous than a wounded animal. A wounded or a cornered animal, or you get between its pups and that's three scenarios you don't want to be you don't want to be in. I don't care what the animal is.
It doesn't matter. And I tell you another one, a similar story. A friend of mine several years ago had a problem with raccoons on his property, and it was like, geez, Rob. And similar to the groundhog that was underneath my deck. But by the way, everybody, I got rid of the groundhog I went to I think it was Lowe's or one of the other operations, Home Depot, and I got these non-threatening, non-chemical. It wasn't poisonous, but what it was I got this spray, and I sprayed it on the outside of my garden and around the deck.
Right.
So, and then a lot of these animals, especially the groundhog, was specifically for groundhogs and rodents that always have their nose on the ground, right, smelling. And these pellets or this spray, I got both the pellet and the spray. And what it did was once the groundhog or whatever the rodent you're trying to get rid of would smell it, it would burn their eyes and their nostrils. But again, not threatening, doesn't harm it, humanely. But for the instance that it's almost like getting sprayed with mace.
Right.
You get sprayed with mace, you're not going to die. It's going to burn like hell, and you're going to be very uncomfortable for a while, maybe get a rash at the worst, right? So this is what this kind of was, if I'm going to draw a parallel. And finally that did rid the rodent, the groundhog of, and then never came back because I guess it worked. It was only like $8 and boom, it did work. But a friend of mine, prior to this, he had a raccoon problem, and somehow or another, this raccoon, rather sizable, was in his garage. Saw him in the garage. It was back tucked in the corner of the garage. And this man sees it, this friend of mine, and he grabbed a shovel, a spaded shovel, and he went on to woo it out or get it out of the garage. Now, mind you, again, as you mentioned earlier, Tex, it's in the corner. Yeah. This guy was closing in on it. And this raccoon feels, of course, threatened. Here comes a human being after him with some sort of weapon, I guess. I don't know what their thought process is. Comes at him. And this thing was fend for his life, basically, right? I don't know if my friend was going to kill it. I don't think he was. But regardless, the wild animal, it got so mean and nasty that it ran toward this guy with he said he could see the teeth and everything, and it reached out with its hands. They kind of like have hands, right?
Yeah.
And it started flailing and started hitting this guy in his ankles. It tore his ankles, almost literally shredded them.
Yep.
And skedaddled out of the garage. And this man, he had to go. My buddy had to go to the hospital, and he got like 18 stitches. And was lucky that he didn't bleed out because they were deep wounds. He goes, Rob, there was puddles of blood throughout my entire garage. My wife got him in the car, bled through all over, inside the car. And he started feeling weak. And he literally that night, that day, it was in the afternoon. If the doctor told the wife, you did not get your husband here, despite not hitting a major artery, he could have easily died within an hour. of blood he was losing. And the moral of that story, everybody, you don't corner any wild animal in your garage, in a corner anywhere. Corner of your yard, corner of your garage, in your house. I had a friend that had a squirrel got in his house. It's tore up his whole house.
Yep.
To shreds, man.
Yeah, if you find something in the garage, just open the door. Let it
Open
be.
the door,
Put some food outside,
put
maybe.
some food out, lure it out, throw food its way, and make a little pathway out. That's all you need to do. Don't confront it. Don't try to attack it. I'm a non-kill guy. I would never take out a gun and kill it, a wreck or something like that. I wouldn't, Yeah, I would. I would just try to get it out and try to get rid of it humanely. But any cornered wild animal, you're going to lose. You're not going to die, but you're going to get messed up if they come close to you.
Well, it's like I tell anybody that bows up to me, and you might come out on top. You might per se win the fight, but I guarantee you're going to limp back home. So,
well, yeah,
it's not going to be pleasant for you. You corner these things, and this I don't know, man. When it's like people feeding bears on their property. What are you thinking?
Yeah, come on,
What are you
feeding
thinking?
bears? That reminds me of this story really quickly. Okay, this guy's a millionaire. Every once in a while I'll pull up in my YouTube feed about these big, beautiful. I typed in log style ranch houses to look at, right?
Right.
And there was this magnificent, beautiful home, huge home in the middle of the woods in Montana or Wyoming. I think one of the two states. And this guy was feeding, and listen, he had all sorts of wildlife around his property, which again, I love that. If I lived in a place with a lot of wildlife, I'm not turning away from it. I'm going to embrace it and love it, right? But this guy was putting out meat, raw meat, steak.
Jeez.
Dude, no, I'll send you the link. You'll laugh your ass off. He was getting every critter. There was a moose running through his backyard by his swimming pool. There were black bears coming down from the forest. There were wolves coming to his property. The guy's married with 3 kids, all under 10. And I'm not kidding you. And I saw the video. It wasn't fake. It wasn't AI. It was a literal video showing off his property and what he did to attract the wildlife. And Tex, man, wolves, bears, moose, deer, everything by his swimming pool, the perimeter of his house, by his deck.
Not smart, man.
The wife was like, finally, and she starts in this video. Literally, it wasn't dramatized to get views because he was trying to sell his house. Actually, it was part of a real estate thing, right? And I'm like, dude, and his house was like $10 million he's trying to sell for. I mean, it was a mansion, right? What are you doing? What's on your mind? You got 10. I don't care if you didn't have kids. You want wolves running through your backyard, Tex, when you're swimming?
No.
Come on. I don't know where people are thinking. And these are average people. No clue what
they're not. That's just it. They're not.
Sometimes if you're that wealthy, hey, listen, if you're a successful business person or whatever your job is and you're a millionaire, hats off to you. I think a lot of these people have warped minds. The more money you make, I think you think you're just like, you can do whatever the hell you want. It's not the case whether you make $10 an hour or $1,000 an hour. It don't matter. The wildlife is wildlife. They don't care who you are. Putting out raw meat, Tex, raw meat on your property. Would you do that? Unless you were hunting in the middle of the woods somewhere.
Not unless I'm trying to catch something to relocate it. You know what I mean?
Yes. So I just don't know what people are thinking. And it goes back to even talking about Bigfoot. I'm not a fan. I don't think I would ever gift Bigfoot food,
I'm not a proponent of gifting at all.
you know?
Um, because I mean, let's face it, folks, it's no different than baiting wild animals. You
Yeah.
know. Now, don't get me wrong. We put out bird seed and peanuts for the
Oh,
squirrels and the
sure.
birds,
Yeah.
and out here.
Bread, yeah,
But
we all,
now, but now, and people put cat food out for stray cats, which I don't get.
oh,
But um, but now we've got possums running around. We got raccoons running, big raccoons. My God, I bet this one border raccoon is probably 40 pounds. He's huge, old, but he's huge. It's getting to the point now where, I'm not feeding them, but my neighbor, I'm like, these raccoons are really cool to look at, but no, no. I'm gonna have to talk to him about relocating them. So
yeah. And everybody in
and
chat,
I'll do it. I don't have a problem relocating them at all.
no,
But they get to rely on, and you're not helping them. You're not helping wildlife by feeding them. You're hurting them.
you're hurting them. And then here's the thing too: when you stop doing it, they get pissed off. I mean, in the cases of a lot of Bigfoot, you hear about the gifting, and you've been doing it for several months, and some of these clan of Bigfoot, they get used to it. See, that's where you come with the problem. You stop gifting them, especially, you hear about the peanut butter, this, that, and the other. Somebody mentioned they give crystals or rocks. I think that's different. I wouldn't do any of that, but I think that's a smarter way to do it than food, because a wild animal loves food, and you stop doing it, they get mad. Like, I've heard many stories about, I was gifting Bigfoot this, that, and the other peanut butter, and then I stopped. And you had no problems. Then he stopped. Then guess what happens? The Bigfoot are getting closer to his property. They start pounding on the side walls of his house, causing a nuisance. Can't get rid of it. One guy flat had to move, literally, because it was every night something was going on. He had kids, had a wife. They're getting, I can't believe this.
And that's fine. And another thing is, and that's not the first time I've heard that.
No.
Well, fine. You move, and it's no longer your problem.
But it's somebody
else. What about the people that buy the house?
Poor people, yeah. Hell yeah.
You've knowingly put them in danger.
You did. Yeah, absolutely. I studied a little real estate in school just because it was part of my curriculum. And, we have this disclosure thing. I don't even know if that's part. I don't know if. Okay, if you have a leaky roof, Tex, to make it simple, if you're selling a house and your roof leaks, you gotta tell the people, right?
Hey,
now you got Bigfoot on your property that's been terrorizing you. Do you have to tell them that? I don't think that applies. I don't know. I, being the person that I am, would say, look, you're gonna think I'm nuts, but I think there's some sort of unnatural animal roaming the property. And then most people will say, oh, cool, and think you're a quack, and it wouldn't matter anyway. So you'd be better off telling people because he ain't going to believe you.
And it's like, hey, by the way, we got Bigfoot on our property.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, if that's the case, knock 20 grand off the sale price. Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Generally, though, and listen, we've all put bread on the lawn for the birds. A lot of us have bird feeders. That's fine. But if you live with the national forest backing up to your property, don't put raw meat out there.
No.
Please.
Hell, I don't care if you live in the middle of the city. Don't put raw meat out.
Yeah, no, that's a great point too. I wouldn't think to do that, but yeah, don't do that. You'll get some varmint you don't want coming around eventually.
Yeah, yeah. Even if it's stray dogs and cats, I mean,
Oh, well, I don't view this as a problem. Some people do, but I do have a lot of cats roaming the neighborhood. We have the creek that surrounds our neighborhood. It's got a lot of wildlife down there. Um, no deer or nothing, but mostly rodents and stuff like that. And
yeah,
um, but we also have an overpopulation of not domestic cats, but
ferals,
stray cats, feral
yeah,
cats.
feral cats, yeah,
Yeah, that they hook up and they have babies and they're not owned by anybody and they just roam. They just literally roam. In fact, I had 6 on my deck. I think I told you the story. I had 6 of these and they get big too, Tex. I mean, first of all, they're
yeah.
wild and they and people feed them, but I also have a strange inclination that they also hunt small rodents and birds because they
Oh,
get big.
absolutely. I mean, they will curtail if you have a like a field rat problem or something like that.
Yeah.
They'll curtail that problem for you for sure, unless unless you're feeding them all the time and they don't have to hunt for food.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
because a wild animal is not going to spend any more energy than it absolutely has to feed itself.
That's correct. And with me, with the cats that I have, I wouldn't want them in my house, but I'm not scared of them because they're actually if I go outside and they see me, even though I know they're wild, most animals they run away. They just they take off.
Right.
They don't want to bother with you. But I kind of think they're cool because number one, a lot of them are very pretty. I've got some that are I mean, they they're such a mixed race of different types of breed of cat. You got some that have these pretty prints, stripes and dots, and some are jet black, jet gray, but some are like tan and almost orangey looking. So they're all very cool, and I kind of like it. Some of the other neighbors do not, and I get it, but it doesn't bother me
Right.
because I did have an obscure rat roll through my property a couple of years back that was under my deck that I tried to get rid of. And then I found out I had more than one. I managed to kill the one rat. I thought, cool. But where there's one, there's more. And then the cats that roam my neighborhood that happen to be roaming my backyard more frequently than usual got rid of the rest of them.
Yeah.
And these rats came from, and my neighbor is clean, you guys. It's not garbage. It's a very nice area, but there was a abandoned house that was left. The renters got booted out, and the owner of the property did not take care of it. They put all this dry lumber and all this crap in back of the garage. And after about 6 months, that's where the rats congregated, and then they
Yeah.
spread throughout my little neighborhood for a little bit. And the great thing about these wild cats, feral cats, as you said, and it's what they are, they pretty much took care of that problem. So I was grateful for that because, and they don't do us no harm, and they don't even go in my garbage or nothing. But I do not feed
Right.
them. No need to feed them because you should see them. They're pretty hefty. They are hefty.
Yeah. They don't starve.
They don't starve, and they live through the winter. I mean, they survive during the winter. They don't. Nobody takes them in because
No, they'll huddle up together. They'll find a shed to get underneath or something like that. Although there is the occasional one that crawls up in the engine and you hear them.
oh yeah, that's
You know.
or in the wheel well. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've had that
Yeah.
happen once. And once in a while, they are in the winter. I did a couple were under the deck for the winter, which I let them be. Hey, take your shelter, do what you need to do. But then last year, a whole new litter was bred in my neighbor's yard, so we got more. I mean, we got them all over, man. Just like we have a wild dog population, it's crazy. That's kind of diminished though in the last couple of years, thankfully, because we've had actually animal control is taken them out.
Yeah.
So, and that's not fun because they are dangerous. The wild dogs,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
and I love animals, but yeah, the ones again that are feral dogs, even they're kind of spooky, especially at nighttime. And they hang out down by the creek, which is not too far from here.
Right.
But anyway, man, this has been a great show. I like to, I like when you and I just kick it. I think the people loved it. We had quite a few people in chat for the afternoon. Thank you
Yeah,
guys.
absolutely.
That Patterson Gimlin, I was amazed though, Tex, for people joining later. Check out the beginning of the show. There's like 290 plus sightings pre 1967, 10 miles outside of Bluff Creek. And I stumbled across that the other day. I said, wow, I didn't realize that. And so so I thought that we talked about that a little bit and our other things we talked about. So it was a cool show. Thanks to Diane for your awesome super chat. I noticed a few newer people. If you're new, please subscribe to Bigfoot Mr. Rob on YouTube, Texas Front Porch, The Blinds and the Booze, Donnie Cho, Paranormal Paul, Monica Rollins, Daniel Diva. Thank you guys for coming in.
Yeah, and I'm going to be
going on. Yeah.
Well, I'll be out in the field this weekend, so
Okay.
y'all won't be seeing me around. Krista's helping me out. She's going to co-host over on Southern Belle Bigfoot. And if you haven't subscribed to Southern Belle Bigfoot, go over there and check her out. We've done some good interviews. I've been co-hosting with her, getting her up and running. And she's got a great encounter too. I mean, we talk about Bigfoot around the house. Yeah, check out her encounter. But so Sunday she'll be Krista will be co-hosting over there. And
cool. I think I was on
Monday,
there last Sunday.
I'll come back Monday. We are having Mr. Knack, North Alabama Cryptids, on, and he's been doing some research out in his area. That it's really going to be an interesting show. Really going to be an interesting show. This is we're going to get into more than just Bigfoot, and I'm really looking forward to it. He sent me some pictures that are really cool. So if you're a history buff, you're really going to enjoy this thing, especially
that'd be great. Well, I'm looking forward to that. And of course, your show coming up on Monday and the other ones and the Southern Belle Bigfoot. I was on there, I think, last Sunday, was I not? Or the Sunday before?
Yeah.
And you've been on it. Yeah, go check out Southern Belle. She's a really sweet Southern lady. Very cool. Very personable. Go check her out. We got the Blondes and the Booze Thursday and Friday, of course. And then we've got me and the girls. Minus Monica still on vacation, perhaps Tex, because Tex sometimes comes on later on Saturday night. And then I'll be back Tuesday night, beginning of next week with a cool show with Josh and Krista. So, yeah, a lot of cool shows upcoming. Thanks, you guys. Hit the like button on your way out. Check out the Blondes tonight at 9 o'clock in the East. And, appreciate you guys. Thanks again.
And be sure and check out, because Danielle's got her own channel now.
Oh yeah, Miss T with the Cryptid.
It's Tea Time with Danielle Diva. She, I think, about twice a month. Dennis Carroll co-hosts with her.
Oh, that's Dennis Carroll.
Yeah, and they give him some really cool stuff. So
Dennis Carroll, y'all know Dennis. He's very cool. He comes on our shows. Great guy. Yeah, he's got his own channel, Hunting in the Shadows. Check out Dennis since you brought him up. So many people, Tex. Good people have good shows, and can't name them all. You really can't.
Yeah, don't forget old Brent over there at Paranormal Portal.
And of course, Brent. Yeah, Brent's off today. But regardless, so yeah, check out the Paranormal Portal, and so yeah. With that being said, of course, Josh Turner, PRT. For all you folks that don't know him, we all know him. But with that being said, we could talk about hours for all the other channels. But subscribe to us. Turn on your alert bells and hit the like button on your way out.
Pretty please.
If you would. Absolutely. So thanks, Tex, for another cool show. I enjoyed it today. I like when you and I just chit-chat for a while. It's always refreshing. Come up with new things on the fly, and I thought it was great. So thanks to you, and thanks for everybody for coming on in. Appreciate you. Stay tuned. Please subscribe. Hit that like button. And until next time, BMR and Tex, we're both out.
This is the future. Evolution.
The Crossing Realms Conference launches September 19th and 20th and will dock in Richmond, Missouri. This is already being called the event of the year, folks. With an unprecedented list of speakers and special guests, 2 days of cryptids, UFOs, and paranormal presentations, along with a celebrity-filled ghost hunt, meet and greet, gallery reading, vendors, and a film screening. This promises to be both educational and fun. Go to eventbrite.com to secure your tickets and vendor slots before they are all abducted. They're going fast.